Good afternoon. Our Chancellor gave us his budget for recovery and growth yesterday afternoon, and which was treated with some scepticism by certain parties, including the opposition parties who called it a pre-election budget. Whatever your feelings, there's always two sides to the argument, and certainly there's been a lot of scepticism about what the Chancellor did yesterday. Some journalists, some witty journalists, called it a pre-budget report for bingo, boilers and bankers. I think the bingo refers to the fact that the duty on bingo has been reduced. If you have an old boiler, they're extending sort of the car scrappage scheme to boilers, so you can get some money if you replace your old boiler. And the bankers will come on to in a little while, see how the Chancellor decided to attack the bankers' bonuses. But it was not a report that included sweeping changes. In fact, the government seemed to feel that the economy will come out of recession, and they quoted some quite interesting growth rates. In 2010, they feel that the economy will grow at 1.25%, in 2011 at 3.5%, and in 2012 something over 3.5%. So they are looking, their strategy is looking at the economy coming out of recession, which will give increased tax revenue as a matter of course, as the economy grows. And also, as the economy comes out of recession, there's going to be some increased taxes, which we'll talk about in a little while, to increase the take to the exchequer. He didn't, however, say why he expects the economy to grow at that rate or how. So I think that's one that we will have to speculate and leave the journalists and the opposition parties to speculate on that one. So who's going to be the winner in this, as a result of this pre-budget report? Well, I suppose if your business is bingo, and if you have an old house where you need the boiler replacing, and you drive an electric van, then congratulations, you are a winner. For the rest of us, it's really not a good budget in terms of the cost to the individuals, especially the Middle England and the higher rate taxpayers. So for the others, let's have a look at what the key features of the budget were. Well, as expected, he attacked the bankers' bonuses. And in a way, this is quite savage, in that any bank that pays bonuses over £25,000 to its employees or awards those bonuses over £25,000 will pay extra tax of equal to 50% of those bonuses. Now, this is on top of the normal 40% tax rate, the 1% NIC rate that the employee pays. The bank will pay 50% more tax, and they will get no corporation tax deduction. So I think the take to the exchequer on a bonus of, say, £100,000 is something like £102,000, I think it is. So it's quite a swinging and quite a punitive tax that he's introduced. The sceptics would say that why is it only introduced for the period from now to the 5th of April? Well, the sceptics might say we're looking for probably a general election in March, because the last thing the government wants is to have huge bonuses paid out while they're fighting an election. So I think it's a short-term measure. What will the banks do? They'll probably defer awarding their bonuses to the 6th of April onwards. And so whether it's a real measure, whether it's going to bring any tax into the exchequer, or whether it's really some pre-election window dressing, we'll see later. There are some income tax changes which were introduced at the last budget, which we'll go through later. And there's also, they confirmed that the changes to pension reliefs will, in fact, be affected from 6th of April 2011. And he's also made some more changes to the anti-forestalling provisions to prevent people from topping up their pensions before the changes coming in 2011. And again, we'll look at that in more detail later. There's also a raft of complex anti-avoidance measures, mainly geared to companies that engage in leasing, international companies and insurance companies. And there isn't a great deal of anti-avoidance that really affects the SME type business. He's also introduced further increases in national insurance contributions, and these are going to take effect from the 6th of April 2011. And again, we'll look at those in more detail later. Again, on the tax raising front, he's increased car benefits, and again, we'll look at that later. There's some further R&D relief, research and development relief. The main one being he's introduced a 10% tax rate on income deriving from patents as a result of R&D expenditure. There isn't a great deal of detail on this, but it's to encourage entrepreneurs to keep hold of their patents and to develop further patents. And so there's a special 10% rate being introduced on patent relief, on income from patents. And also VAT, very quiet on the VAT front, except that from 1st of January 2010, the VAT rate will revert to its previous 17.5%. And other than some minor changes to international services, there isn't a great deal to be said about VAT in this pre-budget report.